Welcome to the Pre Nup, the wedding-obsessed podcast designed to help you plan your dream day. I'm your host, Adriana, and each week I'm joined by the industry's top professionals, celebs, influencers, and friends who are sharing their best tips, advice, and mistakes they've made so you don't have to. The Pre Nup is a Love Stories TV podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Thigh Society. Say I do to all-day comfort with no chafe, no sweat flip shorts. Thigh Society is offering a 15% off discount to Prenup listeners when they use code PRENUP15.
Today, we have a very special guest, a recurring guest. She is a goddess, a guru. She is my sister. She is back again. Big Vic, welcome
In the house.
to the Prenup. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
I am so pleased to chat with you today on air.
Back at you.
Yeah. So, as some of you may know, if you are a listener of the podcast, Big Vic comes on about monthly to discuss a wedding movie. And this month's is The Wedding Planner, 2001. The Wedding Planner, starring JLo and Matthew McConaughey. It's available on Netflix right now. And the last rewatch of it was just as good as ever. I
agree.
I have to say. I mean, my preferred genre, as you know, as many people who might listen know, is so bad it's good. And I think that
This definitely
The Wedding Planner falls
in that category.
Yeah, absolutely.
sure.
Anything you want to say about it before I get into a quick little synopsis?
No, let's jump right in.
Okay, so synopsis of The Wedding Planner. Those who can't wed, plan. That's the motto of Mary Fiore, top planner at her company with a love life that is anything but exciting. That is until a sexy pediatric doctor, Steve, saves her from being killed by a rolling dumpster. The two share a romantic date that leaves stars in her eyes, but Mary's fairy tale comes to a screeching halt when she learns that Dr. Steve is also Steve Eddie Edison, groom of the wedding she's been hired for. A wedding that could catapult Mary's career into one of the most successful in the industry. What's a girl to do? I mean, maybe don't fuck the groom would be my first thought, but
For sure.
you know, that's everyone has a different journey.
It's true.
So every episode that we do these, I will make you guess the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you think the Rotten Tomatoes score was for The Wedding Planner?
My guess was audience score 70,
Okay.
critics score 20.
You weren't so far off. So the tomato meter was 17.
Okay.
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 And the audience score is 59. So you weren't far off.
Getting better. I think it was better than my last guess.
I think your last one was way off, but that was just we can't go back there. That was a dark place.
It was.
So just a couple fun facts I've gathered from IMDb about the movie. Brendan Fraser was supposed to be the Matthew McConaughey role. And that just wouldn't hit
What year
right
was this
for me.
film?
This is 2001. He couldn't do it because there was a conflict with the movie Bedazzled.
Bedazzled.
And anyone planning a wedding right now, they
look up
probably are
Bedazzled.
too young for that movie. But also Sarah Michelle Gellar was supposed to star, but she couldn't because of complications with Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
He was handsome at the time of Bedazzled.
No, I'm not saying he wasn't handsome, but he's not Matthew McConaughey. I mean, he's got that.
All right.
But yeah, Sarah Michelle Gellar was supposed to be JLo, and I could see her as a wedding planner. She has that look.
yes.
She's like buttoned up and pretty
Yes.
cute. Also, Bree Turner, who plays the bride needing comfort at the beginning of the movie that JLo is telling her, you know, you're timeless, your thighs, whatever. She is one of the bridesmaids in the opening scene of My Best Friend's wedding.
No, get out.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Which we have also recapped if anyone
Yes.
wants to go back and listen. And there are some fan theories that say that it's actually the same character and she's just never been able to get out of her own way.
I love those kind of things.
I do too.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you recommend this movie to a bride, Vic?
I
You
would. There's some great ideas and tips on, you know, what not to do. Don't leave your fiance with your hot wedding planner.
Yeah, that's number one. Don't leave your fiance alone
Yeah.
and don't put them in positions where they're going to be alone together all the time.
Right.
It's a little bizarre. Even though Franny, who is the bride of the movie,
we'll get to her.
she's a little sex bot. Okay. Anything that you could relate to in the movie as a former bride?
In this movie, I would say that I relate to Fran. I'm perfect in every way.
and I had a wedding planner do everything for me.
Okay,
So-
well, but can you really relate to Fran? I didn't
just
sleep
that
with the
she
groom.
had a wedding planner,
Okay.
I would say, is where I...
You guys have similar energy, too. She's a little bit,
Yes. Mhm.
feisty, and
Right.
and you can be, too, which is nice.
Right.
What was your favorite trope or element of the movie?
Like, I would say my favorite scene really was Massimo's proposal. Like,
Okay, yeah. We'll get into Massimo as well.
Yes.
He was so cute. Yeah. That was your favorite scene of the movie?
Like, yeah.
It's really sweet.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to leave favorite quote for last because I think that was so
I
funny,
do have
but-
several.
Okay, so we'll go to them after.
Okay.
But okay, so I want to go into some things that would occur in real life that happen in the movie. So there are some things that are said and done throughout that I'm like, oh, that really does hit home as a wedding planner, and I'm sure that some people planning weddings will relate to it as well. But JLo says at one point in the movie, JLo, who is Mary in the movie, says to Fran, who is her bride, most grooms are NIDs, which means not into details. And that is the goddamn truth, isn't it?
Right.
So what are your thoughts on an NID groom? Do you think it's acceptable and common?
I think it's acceptable.
You think it's acceptable for a groom to not be into the details of a wedding?
Right.
Okay. Do you feel like that across the board, or?
I think there's some grooms that are more into it than others.
Yeah.
Most of them are not.
Yeah, most of them are not. Sometimes it's a little bit of a red flag if they're too into the details.
Right.
I have dealt with some groomzillas who I'm like, why are you even here?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shouldn't you be worried about the food and the music?
Right.
But yeah, I don't really like when they take the reins. So I agree. I agree that, most grooms, she says most grooms are not into details. And I've also dealt with really nice grooms who want to take the reins and they're,
Right.
they're just heading the whole thing. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Right.
But I would say, yeah, if you are a bride and your groom is an NID, don't feel bad. That is
Most of them are that way.
For
yes.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another thing that definitely happens in real life. So Fran, again, who is the bride, her parents are kind of new money. They want to really showcase this wedding, but her mom is so hysterical.
I love her.
And her mom has made several comments about wanting to sing at the wedding.
Yeah.
So I have
I'm sure you
found-
know what this made me think of.
What did it make you think of?
There was contemplating that a parent would sing at your wedding.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So my father-in-law, shout out to Danny Brockman King,
Who has a beautiful voice.
so has a beautiful voice.
Right.
There was some conjecture as to whether he would be singing at the wedding, and ultimately it was a no. But he was fine with that. He sang at my sister-in-law's wedding, and she had a Memorial Day weekend wedding. And he sang Frank Sinatra's song, The Best Is Yet to Come, which is a great, beautiful song. He has a really nice Frank Sinatra-y voice.
Okay.
But as a surprise to her and all the guests, he performed That's America to Me and gave a shout out to Trump, which about half the guests
Took kindly to.
and half did not, including the bride. So it was interesting.
Yep.
But there are a lot of people who want to do this. When someone hears that a person in their life is getting married
Right.
and they fancy themselves a star, they're like, this is my time
How
to
do I
shine.
make
I'm
this
going to
about me?
perform at the wedding.
Right.
And people asked you to perform at your wedding.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a couple. It wasn't just Dan Brockman. And I don't think it was even his request, but since he had done it at my sister-in-law's wedding, I think there was a thought. But Jake, my husband, nipped that in the bud pretty
Okay.
quickly. But yeah, you had a few people want to perform at yours, I
did.
recall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
None of which were able, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And,
the band
maybe
just
next
won't
time.
allow it. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's not a place for a performance. I think that if you have someone special in your life who is a great singer or whatever their talent is, maybe they're a juggler, that happens the rehearsal dinner.
Okay.
We don't want to do that.
What do you think about the bride and groom wanting to perform?
No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to say this. For anyone who is planning a performance as either the bride or groom, it just looks so self-indulgent. It looks like
But shouldn't the day be self-indulgent?
the day should be self-indulgent, but it should be couple-centric, and it should not be an excuse to force your family and friends to watch you dance. Like, this isn't we're not pulling mommy into the basement to watch our dance routines. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's what it feels like. It feels a little bit like I don't have a stage, and now that I've invited all of you to this event that you're obligated to come to, this is going to be my stage.
Right. But
And I'm not saying it doesn't work
Okay.
ever, but I'm saying that it mostly doesn't work.
right. Okay.
Especially, have you ever seen the video of the bride singing herself down the aisle?
That's insane.
It's a problem,
It's insane.
you know? And
Yeah.
I know some people who would not be
Loves
above
to
it,
do that,
would love to
right.
do it. But there is a difference between what we can do and what we should do. And we should recognize that, I think.
Right.
It's
Yes.
important to be
Yeah.
self-reflective and
sure.
self-aware.
Yes.
And yeah, I am not a big fan of a bride or groom performing, specifically a surprise groom performance.
Okay.
If the bride has done most of the planning and you are an NID, not into details groom, and you are thinking, I'm going to surprise her with this little number, chances are she's going to plaster a smile on her face and annul later that evening.
Question. What if he's like a musician or something and he gets up to play with the band the song for the bride and her dad?
That's cute. That's cute. Well,
Like
no. I'm sorry.
He's
Bride
not
and-
singing.
He's not singing?
He's not singing. Say he's like a guitarist or something, and he gets up with the band to play the music for the bride and her dad to dance to.
I don't like that as a surprise. If it's something premeditated, yes. But specifically for bride and dad, it's a very special moment and eyes should be on them. And that's him making it about himself. So I think that's a red flag, actually.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that it's necessarily poorly intended, but I think it's indicative of some behavior that's maybe a little bit, well, this moment isn't about me. How can we make it about me?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Do you disagree?
No, now that you put it that way,
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the person, though. Like, say you have this shy guy who doesn't really, like, if he... I almost would be touched depending on the person. Like, oh
I
my
guess
gosh,
it
he
depends.
thought to...
Yeah. I mean, listen, as with everything, I'm just going to speak in generals. I can't be so PC on everything.
Right.
But just know that there is room for things outside of
Right.
Exceptions to the rule.
Always.
Anything else you want to add about performances?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So another thing that happens in the wedding planner, Mary tells Steve, who is the guy that she's having a little bit of a flirtation with / the groom. This movie's very
It's so
problematic
insane,
in a
yes.
lot of ways. Mary says to Steve that she can predict how long a couple will last based on little factors like the song that they choose
Yes.
or the bridesmaids' dress colors. And I think that's true.
You do?
I do. I have looked at people and just a comment made or something, and I thought, you're not going to make it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And have you been right?
There are instances where I've been right. I've not always been right.
Okay.
But
Wow.
yeah.
And you think somebody close to weddings that way would know?
I fancy myself something of a clairvoyant. So
Okay.
maybe it's not wedding related so much as I speak to the other side and, I see
Right.
into the beyond.
Okay.
Totally kidding. I don't do any of that. But no, I think that there's just a sense that you get really close to people when you're planning their wedding.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they let their mask fall a lot
Mhm.
and you see this kind of weave in and out of it. And I think there are some interesting things that people pay a lot of attention to and put a lot of onus on that are indicators of, do you actually care about the marriage or the wedding?
Right. Okay.
So Mary noticed that Steve and Fran were picking "I Honestly Love You" by Olivia Newton-John,
Which I thought you would love.
excellent song. I love you. Yeah,
And you're just such an Olivia Newton-John fan. So
R.I.P. to the queen
great.
of the world.
Yes.
Yes, love you, Olivia Newton-John. But she noticed that they picked a song that she said, maybe they wouldn't make it. And for the purposes of the plot, and if it were in real life, that would be a big issue to say to the groom. It's not right. But here she was saying it. And I don't think it's...
That whole scene was wildly...
The tango scene?
Inappropriate, yes.
Oh my gosh. And I was peeing myself because they're dancing the tango. They go to a dance lesson. The wedding planner, Mary, meets Fran and Steve at their dance lesson for their wedding. And then Fran, the bride, says, I got to take a call. Mary, fill in with them. Like, oh, you think the wedding planner should be practicing dancing with him?
And why is Mary at the dance lesson?
Why is she there?
Half of my confusion was everything. We'll get to that, I'm sure.
No, but...
Like the horseback, why, that was one of the things I listed, that would, like, things that wouldn't happen, which I'm sure we're getting to.
Well, no, go into it now. So
the horseback riding wasn't necessary.
Set the scene.
So they're looking at a venue that has horses on the property, and I assume riding, because then Mary's parents marry Steve.
No, Fran's parents.
I'm sorry. Fran's parents, Fran, Steve, Mary, and Massimo all are on horseback.
Yeah, I'm like, Massimo, why are you there? Like, it's just
insanity.
Yeah, and then Steve has to save Mary.
Which, that whole thing when Fran screams, shut up.
Yeah.
And her mother just belts out something that scares the horse.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Because the mom keeps trying to sing, and she's like practicing singing for the wedding.
And then Mary's horse goes crazy.
Yeah.
Steve has to chase her down on horseback.
Yeah.
And saves her life yet again.
Yeah, and then he gets on her horse facing her, and they're basically straddling each other on this horse. It's very provocative.
It is.
But no one seems to really think much of it, you know? That's a little bit of movie magic.
Right.
Okay, another thing that very common in real life weddings. In the beginning scene of the movie, we see Mary planning this gorgeous wedding, by the way. It's
the flowers.
Oh, the flowers
at that wedding.
Stunning. But in the audience, in the guest area, there are two guests talking to each other, and they're like, oh, there's the wedding planner. She must lead such a romantic life. And I think that I've heard people say a lot, oh, work in weddings, it must be so glamorous. And a lot of vendors will say that to me. They're like, yeah, glamorous. Like, I'm sweating all day. It's a 13-hour day.
Right.
You know, we're getting bitched at and this and that. And there are elements of it that are very glamorous because a lot of times they're these beautiful, over-the-top events. But, I mean, work is work at the end of the day. Even if you love it, it's definitely not
all glitz and glam.
Glitz and glam, yeah. But I think that is a very common conception, would you say?
For sure, yes. But cut to Mary, which to me was so glamorous when she got home, you know, fixing a perfect little TV dinner, vacuuming her curtains.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it.
She's so hot. I mean, even JLo just doing tours around the house.
I could watch all day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Something special.
For sure.
Another thing very common that maybe some people don't know, but it's the troubleshooting of a wedding planner. So throughout the movie, through Mary's weddings, we see her sobering up the father of the bride. She sprays a little Evian in the face. She is saying a speech to the best man in his ear. He has a little earpiece, and she's reading it off to him. The moving of the dark tower, which made me laugh so much.
Yes.
So she's looking in the monitor for the wedding video, and she sees that a woman has a big updo that's kind of blocking it. So she requests that the woman be moved to quote-unquote preferred seating so that she's not in the way. So that happens a lot.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Must be done. Thank God there's someone to do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Another thing, the bridal breakdown. So we see the bride at the beginning have a little breakdown, and we also see Franny have a breakdown to the wedding planner.
Right.
This is very common. A lot of planners will say that they are unpaid therapists, or if they listen to Ari's podcast, Unlicensed Therapy, they might call themselves an unlicensed therapist. But yeah, that's part of the whole gig. Like,
do you find that with your brides? Do you ever have those kind of issues?
Yeah. And usually it is something wedding related that leads down a path of something that's completely unrelated to wedding.
Right.
So I will hear people say, like, cold feet. That's very common. It's not an indicator that you need to call off your wedding, but it's a scary moment that a lot of brides and grooms deal with before the wedding. It's this change in your life. It's about to pivot completely. You're about to become a partner with someone. So it sounds a little bit morbid. It's not. It's nice. I swear. Marriage is nice. Don't get scared, brides-to-be. But
Don't do it.
Cancel the wedding. No, totally kidding. But you're merging a life with someone. You are no longer an individual. So if you're not prepared for all of your thoughts, feelings, and decisions to have a factor of someone else, then you shouldn't be getting married.
Marriage isn't for you. Right.
What do you think?
I agree. Yes. You're a unit now. Decisions aren't made about you. They're made about the unit. It's about, another person. That's what it is.
Yeah. Did you have any feelings of fear or?
We were together for so long that we were already a family before. So
yeah. And you live together and stuff. Right. But yeah, there is still something that even when people live together, I think sometimes they can have this little like, oh my God, like this is the rest of my life kind of thing. Right. But Mary is there to talk her brides off a ledge. She has a little canned speech that she gives.
It's a great canned speech.
I don't like the lie behind it.
Right. I really felt uncomfortable when she was lying to Franny.
Oh my gosh. It felt so Raquel from Vanderpump Rules.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Like going into...
Are things falling apart?
I think, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, you're timeless, you're exquisite. You have the man of a love of a man named Steve. Like, no, I have a love of a man named Steve. He is trying to get with me while he's marrying
you. Wildly inappropriate.
Stop trying to get with me. But I to your earlier point, don't hire JLo as your wedding planner. Anyone else.
Yeah, what could they have been thinking?
You're going to hire the hottest person on earth to spend all the time with you? No.
Crazy.
Absolutely not.
Every bride fears an uninvited guest at her wedding, and this one might be the worst of all. I'm of course talking about the dreaded thigh shave. Most brides won't tell you the truth, that under those great big gorgeous gowns, they're sweating their something blues off. But I have discovered a miracle trick to avoid this. There's a product by Thigh Society called the Cooling Shorties. Truly a miracle undergarment. These are ultra stretchy, barely there undershorts that keep your legs from rubbing together and keep your booty from sweating through your dress. Because we have enough to worry about on the wedding day. We don't need to add rearranging ourselves mid-vows to the list. These are truly like being naked, but better. You'll want to save that for the wedding night. Ladies, these are not compression shapewear because we want to feel sexy on the day, and what is less sexy than being sucked in so tight we can't breathe while our undergarments dig into our skin? I object. Thigh Society Cooling Shorties just give you this perfect, gorgeous smoothing effect for your dress to lay over and hugs you in all the right places. Don't tell your future spouse. These are so flattering, cute, and comfy for every bride from size XS to 6XL. Oh, and they also make great gifts for bridesmaids. They're perfect for you and your girls to wear under those little getting ready robes. Trust me, the gals will thank you and your thighs will thank you. Thigh Society is offering Pre Nup listeners a special 15% off when they use code PRENUP15.
Okay. Now I want to get to anything else that you noticed through the movie that are commonalities in weddings before we get to things that would never happen.
I had a lot of that would never happen.
Okay. So why don't you start?
The horseback riding scene, like why were they all horseback riding? It was crazy.
There are a few things like that.
The dance,
so,
again, the dance class. Like why would it be necessary for the wedding planner to do that? I mean, I guess it wouldn't be completely unheard of for a wedding planner to like coordinate them going to a dance class, but it's not necessary for her to attend the dance class.
She doesn't need to be there.
Right.
And she definitely doesn't need to be dancing with the groom-to-be.
Right. Yes.
My thing in that same token was the choosing of the florals. So there's a scene where Mary takes Steve, the groom, because Fran, the bride, is out of town, to go shop for flowers for the wedding, but they're going and they're like, oh, I think the hydrangeas would be nice. I think the ranunculus, whatever. That's not how people pick flowers for weddings.
No.
If you are doing DIY flowers, you are probably not having a wedding planner, first of all, because you're, more budgeting, which is totally fine and great. But again, that's not how it's going to go. And also, when you're hiring a florist, you're not going to a field of flowers and hand picking them. The florist is
There's
picking
different
them.
seasons for different flowers.
Correct.
You don't just go to a big
It's
flower
more-
bazaar and pick out any flower you like.
Yeah,
That's not how it works.
that really rubbed me the wrong way.
Yes.
I mean, again, we're moving plot, but that I just want people to know what they're getting in for, and if they've watched The Wedding Planner and they think their wedding planning experience will be anything like this, God forbid, for many reasons. But that's not something people do.
Right.
What else did you think?
There is a scene where, at the end of the film, where Steve pushes the cab driver out of the driver's seat and into the passenger seat and takes over.
Yeah, that's illegal.
Yes, that would never happen.
Thank you so
ever.
much.
Yeah.
You didn't get your medallion, Steve. You are not a taxi cab driver.
Right.
That's wrong.
That made me laugh.
Yeah.
And let's see, what else did I have?
I have other stuff. So things that would never happen. Bringing a potential client to another client's wedding to see the work is the biggest no-no ever. And so many people, maybe from this movie, maybe just as a misconception, if you don't work in the wedding industry, why would you know it? But just so anyone is aware while planning a wedding or while seeking out a wedding planner, there are many ways to view a portfolio and get an understanding of someone's work, but you shouldn't ask to attend someone's wedding. It's totally wrong. It's
crazy.
And it's a little bit rude. And if the wedding planner accepts that proposition that, yeah, you can come to this wedding and see my work, that's a little bit of a red flag. That's something they would do for you. They would let randoms come into your wedding. They should be completely focused on your wedding that day and not into getting a new client.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, I've toured venues where they're setting up for the wedding the morning of, and it's go take a peek at the ballroom.
That is completely fine.
But yes.
Yeah, you can always take a peek if it's before even, and they know they're going to have 10 minutes to kill where they're just wanting to showcase their work. But I really firmly believe, as the wedding planner, it should be fully couple focused that day. I don't believe in having people come in otherwise, or even dealing with them. Even if you're going to say, come an hour before and you can look, I'm not going to be available and you have to be out by this time. But if you just want to see a little bit of the work. But yeah, that's a no.
Right.
And they do it a couple times. And all of the weddings are so beautiful, but the Greek wedding.
Now that we're touching on the Greek wedding, is that some sort of Greek tradition to throw plates? I've never seen that.
I think it is. I think they do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I love the dancing, of course, at a Greek wedding.
Of course.
Opa.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they do bring plates.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. So another thing that would never happen, speaking of the Greek wedding, JLo's attire as the planner of that wedding, she's wearing an all-white outfit.
Insane.
Okay, we'll just get on this topic for a moment. Wearing white to a wedding, I would think even someone who knows nothing about weddings would know that you don't wear white. It's reserved for the bride.
Right.
But
I've seen it. There was someone at my wedding wearing white.
someone we love very much. Yeah. It happens, unfortunately, far too often.
Right.
This person will not be listening, so it's totally fine.
Right. And we love her dearly, but she wears that color because she said it's the only color that looks nice on her. But
that is the rudest thing. That's like Kelly from The Office. She has to wear white to Pam's wedding because of an emergency. And the emergency is she looks really good in white.
Hilarious.
The wedding, someone's wedding day, as much as you want to put your best foot forward, I think when you're getting dressed up, you should want to look your best. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think it's upstaging to look beautiful. But the one friggin' rule, unless otherwise specifically directed to wear white, is don't wear white.
Right. I even think take it a step further and make sure it doesn't photograph white. Like some pale yellows or silver look white in pictures. I've had people call me and be like, did you see so-and-so's dress? Did she wear white to the wedding you were at last night? And I'm like, no, you know what? It was silver, but it does appear white in that picture.
Looking a little white. Mm-hmm. I just saw a TikTok that went viral, and it was a mom of a wedding guest.
Mom of a wedding guest, okay.
The wedding guest was wearing I wouldn't even call it pale yellow. It was more of a marigold color. That's how it photographed to me. I don't know what it looked like in person, but it looked very clearly yellow to me, the dress. And the mom is telling the story of her daughter going to this wedding in this gold yellow dress, and the mother of the bride spilling a drink on her satin dress because she was wearing white to the wedding, which totally was not.
Wow.
But how embarrassing.
Really embarrassing.
Awful.
And I mean, I think it goes without saying, you don't do that. I think it goes without saying not to do that.
Yeah. Well, to spill a drink on
if
someone?
If somebody shows up in white, I mean, just kindly ask them to leave. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
You know what? Some people would.
Right.
It depends on the person. So in your instance, you had a guest wear white to your wedding.
Right.
It's someone who we really love, who we know loves you so much and is totally innocent. And it's like something that we know would go over that guest's head.
Right.
But some people are poor intended. And they're showing their true color, which maybe is not white. Maybe it's a little green with envy.
Now,
and maybe they should be asked to leave.
Right.
But you shouldn't be the one to ask them. Find someone else to make them leave.
Now, would you rather someone come in white or just like crazy, like rather than a crazy choice outfit? Like I had a black tie dress code at my wedding and someone came and I don't think they're going to be listening either. Like there was someone there in shorts.
It's such a funny thing to do. It's such a choice.
Right.
I mean, I think it really
I don't even
depends.
think I think they were there for like the cocktail and I don't even think they
Was it an invited guest?
It was an invited guest.
Okay.
Yes.
That's really funny. I guess it depends on the craziness of the outfit because some people have very eclectic
It just was very
choices.
casual and it was not a black tie.
For me personally, I honestly would not care if people wore white or if they wore something crazy. Like it just is not something that would bother me. But for someone else's wedding, for a wedding that I was planning, it would bother me so much more for theirs because people pay so much attention to specific aesthetics. Especially now, people spend so much time thinking about dress code.
Right.
I remember our sister, Carissa, was going to a wedding and the palette, it was a black tie. What was that called, Chris? It was black tie neutral? Black tie neutral, yes.
I love that.
It was black and beige, but people do it so much more now, and it's so much more acceptable because it kind of goes with the theme of the wedding. It's event design, if you will. And you're never going to get 100% of guests to agree to that or to abide by those rules, but you can try your best, and it is going to create for really gorgeous photos. So yeah, I think you're always going to have those outliers who are going to wear shorts. I did a black tie wedding where Uncle wore a baseball cap and jeans, and that's just Uncle, you know? He is
good old Unc.
Good old Unc.
Yeah.
He does what he does, and no one asks questions, and
sometimes you can't, especially to an Unc.
You have to show respect.
Right.
Where respect is due.
Mm-hmm.
But some people are so disrespectful that maybe they should just be thrown out of the
I know so many disrespectful Uncs.
You do?
Yeah. There was one at my wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It happens. It happens.
We won't call him out by name, but
I'm sure everyone knows who it is.
Yes. Yep. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on from there. So another thing that would never happen at a wedding is something that we already talked about. We kind of said this ad nauseum, but Fran, the bride, is continuously setting up her fiance, Steve, and Mary, her wedding planner, in situations where they'd be alone without her. I mentioned this story on the podcast before, but I'm just going to say it again. This is not a wedding planner story. This is a maid of honor horror story, but the bride-to-be had to work on the day of a showcase. There was a wedding venue that I used to work at, and we were having a showcase that day. And sometimes if anyone is listening who's getting married, sometimes your venue will do that, not only to draw new people in, but sometimes it's like to taste the food or see different vendors, whatever. So usually bride and groom are invited. Bride isn't able to make it because she was working. Groom was coming with maid of honor. So they come, maid of honor is really sweet, helpful. They are leaving, shutting down, we're leaving work, and one of my coworkers says, they forgot their folder because she had given them a folder with a lot of vendor information, whatever. So she kind of chases them out. After a couple minutes, she's like, his car's still here. And she sees groom and maid of honor making out in the car in the parking lot of the wedding venue.
Dirtbag.
Disgusting.
Dirtbag.
Yeah, it's really gross. And she decided not to tell the bride. I don't know whether the couple is still together.
That's for the best. I say don't tell the bride. I mean, they shoot the messenger most of the time.
Yeah, it's God, it's such a hard thing to do. I mean, I think I would have to write an anonymous letter
How
Snooki.
close were we to the wedding?
Like 6-8 months out.
8 months, it could be called off. I think when you're in the home stretch, you know what I would advise.
What would you advise?
I am a person who said, I know everybody says it's easier to call off the wedding than get divorced. I disagree with that. I think when we're in the home stretch, I would advise sit down with the groom. Everything's paid for. This is done. Invitations are out. People RSVP'd. Don't embarrass me. We're going to go. You're going to look happy. I'm going to look beautiful. I'm keeping all of the proceeds. When it's over, we're having the wedding annulled. And I am going to tell people that I found you doing inappropriate things with your dog, and I hope you're getting the help you need. It's the only way.
That's the only way. Would you give him the heads up that you were going to let people know about the dog thing?
Give him the heads up.
No, I think that you leave that as a surprise.
Yeah, it would be a nice surprise for him. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, I think that is one way to go about it. That's really funny. Yeah, most people do say call off the
wedding no matter how close, but all the money's out. You're embarrassed either way.
But then you have a divorce on your...
It's super quick. It's going to get annulled if you're married that short amount of time, you know.
Yeah, but then
I'm sorry,
what if, I mean, clearly he's not a great person of character, so he might give you a hard time with annulment. He might give you a hard time with divorce. We don't know what this person is going to do. So I say cut your losses and get out.
It's your journey. That's your choice. I'm advising what I'm advising.
I respect it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the wrong choice, but
Right.
I think there's a lot to consider, unfortunately.
Right.
When
Well, Mary had in this film, Mary ran into her ex.
Oh, yeah. Talk about that.
Mary ran into her ex when they're shopping for flowers.
When Mary and Steve are shopping for flowers.
They run into Mary's ex and his pregnant wife. And Wendy. And Steve's confused. How do you guys know each other? And she says, it's a funny story. Yeah. Let me tell it. And she says that Steve was her. I'm sorry, not Steve. What was his name?
I forget what his name is.
Whatever.
Continue.
This is my ex, John. This is my ex-fiance. And Wendy, his wife, they were friends in high school. She said she was just a friend. We find out later she threw Mary's shower. And on the night of the rehearsal dinner, she found them making out in her car. Her car. Scumbag.
Wrong.
Scumbag.
Yeah, that's so dark.
Right?
So now we know why.
And JLo has been done dirty in real life by men.
By A-Rod.
A-Rod.
Yeah. So JLo's been married. So she was married to
Mark.
Well, first it
Casper.
was someone Noah, and then Judd was her backup dancer, and then she was married to Mark Anthony.
Who's Casper? Wasn't there a dancer, Casper, married to someone?
Maybe Britney Spears?
Maybe that sounds right. No, because that's Kevin Federline.
Yeah, you're right. Casper
Smart
is someone.
I'm looking him up.
Yeah,
Continue
look him
with
up.
JLo's
So she
dating
was
history.
Noah, Judd, Anthony, Affleck. So Jennifer Lopez, Noah, Judd, Anthony, Affleck should be her hyphenate. But now it seems that she's probably going to have a fifth wedding because her and Ben Affleck are probably getting divorced. But JLo is the queen of weddings in a lot of ways. She's not only married 4 times over, she is also she's also in so many wedding movies. She has played a bride countless times over.
They just dated. Casper Smart was a dancer for
Smart
JLo.
was okay.
It looks like they just dated.
Wow, that really stuck with you.
It did.
Yeah.
I mean, what a name.
Yeah.
Casper
Casper Smart.
Right.
Ooh, I like it.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's been married a bunch.
Right.
Gorgeous bride. She was
Stunning bride.
She's in love with being a bride.
She's in love with being. I just want to get married so badly. You don't care to whom.
Literally. I don't think that's JLo. I think
No.
JLo is actually romantic, and I think Mark Anthony was the great love of her life, and I'm sad that it never
Me
worked
too.
out. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They really
And
could have made it
if we
work.
touched on him, I just have to say how much I love his friendship with the great David Beckham.
Yeah, of course. All right. So we have to speed things up. We've been talking longer than I thought. Okay.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's me. So things that we love about the movie. Okay, so let's go with like favorites, favorite quotes, favorite things.
Okay.
Give me
I
yours.
just love Fran. I think she's gorgeous,
I said the
confident,
same.
a little too confident leaving, her fiance with JLo. But
Yeah.
I love her. I love that she was a bookie in college.
I love that she was a bookie in college.
Yes.
Yeah, I love Fran's hair. She's just so stunning. The way that she so gracefully accepted Matthew McConaughey's gaslighting when he called off the wedding day of, and he really brilliantly made her think that that was her decision.
But I kind of think she needed a push to get there. She wanted to call off her wedding before.
I think she was just having cold feet. I think she
Okay.
would have been very happy with Dr. Steve.
Okay.
Yeah. So Franny, okay, she was a highlight. Basil St. Mosley.
Oh, yes.
The
Mhm.
dance instructor.
Yes.
King. The idea of an arranged marriage, I really love.
Same.
I know a lot of people won't agree with that, except for any of maybe some of my Indian brides, not all of them. But arranged is like a harsh way to say it, but like a set up marriage, I think it can work.
Yes. And the story about Mary's parents, which brings me to one of my favorite quotes of the film,
Yes.
was she said I had big eyebrows and a low IQ.
Aww.
That Mary's mother had said that about Mary's father with
But
their arranged
then
marriage, and they grew to love each other.
Acceptance grew to respect, respect turned to like turned to
Yes.
love. And that's beautiful.
Right.
I'm going to give you my favorite quote really quick because it was my favorite of the movie. And it's another planner in the building asking Mary for advice. And he says, how do you word an invitation where both sets of parents are paying for the wedding? The groom is in the military, but about to earn a medical degree. And the bride is a young widow whose father recently had a sex change operation and now goes by the name Sugar Pie DeSanto.
That is a great quote.
It's a
of the
great
film.
line. I just love it so much.
It was a good one.
Do you like the ending of the movie?
Wait, I have to give my other favorite
I'm sorry.
quote really quick,
Really
just
quick.
while we're doing quotes. Of course, I love Jack in the beginning, the father, you give my little girl whatever she wants, no expense spared. And also another quote by Jack, when Mary's horse goes rogue, you see it's important to learn how to ride a horse.
Why is that so funny?
it's
That is really
hilarious.
funny. Okay. Do you like the ending of the movie?
Enough, yes. I
Okay.
think it tied it in nicely.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think they deserve happiness. I think they went about things the wrong way. I wish that they had gone separate ways. I think once Fran finds out that they're an item, she's going to
Be livid.
flip out. But,
Yes.
it
Who
is
knows
what it
how
is.
long this relationship will last?
For sure. Okay,
Yes.
really quickly, before we wrap up entirely, we're going to do a quick premarital counseling
Wait, but
session.
you do, before we wrap up the movie,
Okay.
you do have to touch on really quickly the gift you just got.
Oh, duh. Oh my God, this is so important. So one of my brides who is so dear to me, she's not just a bride, she's a dear friend. She was so appreciative of the work that we've been doing together. She said she wanted to get me something special. She got me the literal most special gift anyone could ever gift anyone, which is a signed photo of JLo and Matthew McConaughey when they were doing promo for the wedding planner. And
Love it.
It is proudly displayed in my office. If you know me, you know that that's just speaks
Such
to
a
my
great
soul.
gift.
And I love her so much. Thank you, Kara. Okay. So premarital counseling, we'll give really quick advice. This is from Sugar Pie DeSanto. We always
Perfect.
change the name. If you ever want to write in, our listeners, can write in their questions, whatever. Sugar Pie DeSanto says, hi, I know you often say a planner is a luxury and not a necessity, but in your honest opinion and experience, should I enlist in a planner? We are doing a domestic destination wedding, getting married in Florida, but we live in Pennsylvania. We haven't nailed down a venue yet, but we know we want Florida. The wedding will only be about 75 to 100 people. It's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
And we are budgeting around $60K for the wedding. Any advice and honest opinion is appreciated.
Okay. I was very lucky because I had a planner for free.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adriana.
You're so welcome.
It's obviously great if you could swing it to have somebody who's more knowledgeable than you
Yeah.
to do anything for you.
Yes.
Especially a wedding that so much goes into.
Yeah.
It's destination. I would try to budget for it if I could.
Yeah. My short answer is yes. When you are not in the area that your wedding is taking place in, especially for vendors, finding things of that nature, just planning logistics, you will want at minimum a coordinator. I had Julia Di Camillo, who you might know from TikTok, on, and that's what she's doing. Her family's in Florida. That's where she's having her wedding. She hired a month of coordinator. So even if you don't want to budget for a full-ass planner, hire that month of coordinator to hand over the details of your vendors, to handle things for the day, etc.
Right.
Yes. All right. I'm sorry for the quick wrap up, but Vic, thank you for indulging me in another wedding film.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you back.
What are we going to do next?
The next one we are doing is Bridesmaids.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah. So
right.
follow along. You can find that on Hulu and YouTube. And if you haven't watched The Wedding Planner along with us and you feel like watching it now after this discussion, you can find it on Netflix.
Yes.
Vic, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. See you guys soon.
This episode is brought to you by Thigh Society. Say I do to all-day comfort with no chafe, no sweat slip shorts. Thigh Society is offering a 15% off discount to Pre Nup listeners when they use code PRENUP15.
Thanks for tuning into the Pre Nup. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform or on the Love Stories TV YouTube channel. Follow at @the_pre_nup and at Love Stories TV on Instagram for more. Have feedback or suggestions for the next episode? Feel free to reach out to us at podcast@lovestoriestv.com.